Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Zach and I are doing a discussion or review over Frosthaven. This is normally something I don't do because I obviously very much want to do this as a series on the channel. However, I have a bunch going on. I have a bunch of series going on the channel already. I think if I'd added this one, I would never be able to find an upload for regular games. Because it's like, I have, what campaigns do I have? I have Aeon Trespass, Oathsworn, Madara, Artisans of Splendid Vale, and Familiar Tales. So I have 5 campaigns going on my channel, and since I record them in bulk, I have enough that I basically can upload weekly before I record again. It's like, I gotta find some time for other games. So Zach has a copy, and that's how we've been playing it. Like, I've just been actually just playing it instead of recording. So eventually, this will be on the channel as a series whenever my schedule opens up. Probably when I finish one more campaign. I think I'll start doing this. But yeah, here we are. Here it is. Actually, Zach, why don't you go and talk about what do you think of Frosthaven while I grab the Gloomhaven box and show you size.
Sure. So it's definitely a improvement on Gloomhaven. Clearly, Isaac took a lot of the things that he learned from making Gloomhaven, then making Jaws of the Lion, and then making another improvement upon the series. Probably my biggest thing is going to be because, I mean, you can see just box size is significantly larger. Content-wise, it's much more massive. It is, rules-wise, more complicated than even Gloomhaven was. Like, it doesn't feel that way because I played Gloomhaven a ton and Jaws of the Lion a ton. But when you really look at it side by side, you have an entire new phase with a whole new set of rules with everything that was old rules for Gloomhaven in addition. Now, all that being said, the new sequence, the settlement phase is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
You are literally building up your civilization. So I think it's both of ours favorite part of Kingdom Death, where it's a settlement, building stuff up, making armor, getting new equipment, put into this better. Your resources, I mean, we've had the comment, Gloomhaven, it always felt like you had to collect coins for yourself to upgrade.
Yeah.
Now they have a system where it's much more universal. The group is gathering resources for the group.
You can buy stuff. You can use your resources to buy a weapon for someone else.
Right.
Where in Gloomhaven, it felt like he wanted semi-cooperative, but it's like, well, your theme doesn't allow for that. So it just felt like you were being a dick to just rush and grab the money. It's like, I guess I'll never get items.
And some characters were so much better at going and collecting loot that it hurt basically everyone else in the group. Now, like, my character's fairly good at collecting loot. Yeah. It doesn't hurt the group if I have all the loot because I can share and spread that wealth.
My character, I don't even have a way to loot.
Right.
I could have put it in, but I'm like, well, I don't really feel a need for it.
Right.
So basically, earlier today, I recorded the final top 10 segment of the top 100, which should be out probably before this, but if it's not, shocker, Gloomhaven was still in our top 10. I had like 4 and 5, I think, for me and him. And he was not counting Frosthaven. I kind of, maybe by the time I did my top 100, I hadn't played Frosthaven yet, but I would just lump them together.
Right.
And he was like, well, I hear that Frosthaven is everything Gloomhaven, just better. And I'm like, that is 100% correct. Frosthaven, to me, is like, it would be hard to go back to Gloomhaven, I think, because Frosthaven just is superior in every way.
Yeah.
If you watched my final discussion for Gloomhaven, there were there were negatives that I had for it. One of which is like, you have certain weapon cards that are like exhaust.
One-time use.
One-time use, and I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
Frosthaven, haven't come across any of that.
I think one item so far,
but it's like a crude,
it's a crude shield, and that's it.
And it's like, okay, well that makes sense. It broke.
Right.
But everything else is a tap, and I'm like, I'll take a tap to where it's like a special ability, and you just have to refresh it. Sure.
Right.
But all the little weird things that he put in Gloomhaven that were kind of like based off of mechanisms instead of theme have since been removed or updated in Frosthaven.
Right.
It's such a massive game. I'm trying to figure out kind of a way to, of like a certain point to start. Like, it's clearly, if you don't like Gloomhaven, you're not going to like Frosthaven.
Right.
But if you're new to the hobby and you've obviously heard the stuff about these games, one, we would probably say start with Jaws of the Lion.
Exactly.
Like, get that,
100%.
go to Target, I think it's like $40-$50.
On sale, you can easily find for $30.
That's true. And it's not like, what amazed me about Jaws of the Lion, which I've done a series and discussion for on that, it's not like, hey, here you go, you fucking idiots, like, here's Gloomhaven. It's like, no, it's just like the best tutorial system,
Right.
and then the rest of it is Gloomhaven.
Right.
And then after you're done with that, you're just like, great, we don't need this Gloomhaven rulebook.
Right.
We can just play it now. And I haven't personally read the rulebook for Frosthaven, but what I've heard is that it's kind of like, he tries to do like what's new in it.
He has blue boxes for any section that's new.
And I heard about halfway
highlights.
through it basically becomes all new stuff.
Well, so it switches to basically like upgrading your city and all of the settlement phase. Well, of course, that's all brand new because Gloomhaven doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So, yes, and that is a big chunk of the rulebook is that settlement phase. There's 5 pieces of it, and they're fairly in-depth. So, yes, it's all new, but
Right.
it's not like the in-game mechanics tend to be new. It's that phase is now new.
So, I guess as with like kind of a lot of games, if we have more positives to say than negatives, which I
Right.
assume we do, let's start with negatives.
Sure.
On Frosthaven.
It's massive.
It's
It's so massive.
It's huge. Took me forever to do the insert, but not because I usually don't consider negatives of like production or like
Right.
shipping. Obviously, this was delayed significantly.
Right.
I usually don't consider that because that's kind of par for the course with a
Right.
Kickstarter. The one of the negatives that I actually have is the app.
Yeah.
Like it's done by Lucky Duck, and there was a whole thing with like the guy who made the Gloomhaven Helper app. Isaac's wanted to he wanted to start charging or get royalties from it. And the guy was like, "Dude, I made it as for fun. Like
Right.
I'm not dealing with that." And then luckily, Isaac and Cephalofair said, "Well, we'll
hire someone
to develop an app." So at least it's there. But it seems to have like a bunch of like weird quality of life issues.
It definitely is less, in my opinion, clean than the original one was. It definitely seems to have a lot of issues with syncing with everybody else's phone. Which again, when you're charging people for an app,
Yeah, how much is it? Like $15 or something?
something like that, then I kind of really want it to work well.
Yeah. Yeah, $15 for an app when the other one was free, or was it? No,
On Apple, it was like $4 or $5.
$5. Okay.
Yep.
That's right, because it costs, and that's why Isaac started wanting money.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't really blame him.
No.
Like, if you're going to make money off of an IP, because that's where, like, all the free stuff, because he basically was like, hey, use all my Gloomhaven stuff, make your own campaigns, but if you're selling it, then it's
Right.
like, well, all right, now you cross the line. Yeah, the syncing one is one of the major bugs. There's other times when you're including the scenario. Like
Right.
in the previous app, it would just auto put all those people in, but then for some reason it doesn't do that every time.
It doesn't do it every time, which is a little annoying.
Yeah. So we kind of have come to, we try to sync, it doesn't, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll just go to the dials.
We do the dials for every character and then play the monsters on the app, on my tablet basically,
Yeah.
facing the group, so that way everybody has a general idea of health and where they stand.
Mm-hmm.
So the app is definitely a negative for me.
That's all I got, I think. I'm trying to think of other negatives that Frosthaven has, because...
I mean, a negative for me is still going to be like, it's a little discouraging. It's both a negative and a positive. We calculated doing like 3 scenarios once a week would still take us like 8 months to complete this game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a lot. And we're talking 2 hours a scenario.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you're talking 6 hours plus an hour of setup and cleanup on top of that.
Yeah.
'Cause
And we're like veterans. Like, we've
Yes.
all beaten, like, it's me, you, and your wife.
We've all beaten Gloomhaven.
We've all beaten Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion, so it's not like we're like how do we play?
Right.
No, we're like trudging through, and like that's including, like you already have it set up for one scenario. That's including playing the scenario and then the settlement phase and all
then
that.
and cleaning up and setting up for the next one. So when you really get down to it, there's a lot of time involved. And again, you don't have to. You can play this, and complete 30 missions and be good.
Yeah.
It looks like you can path out the main story arc and do none of the side stuff. To me, that's kind of sad. You're wasting a lot of it.
You are missing a lot, yeah.
But again, if that's the way you want to play it, it's there. It's great with that. But again, it is a little like, man, it's a lot of time.
It is. It's an immense amount of time. It's a fantastic D&D replacement if you don't want a DM, but you want an epic story.
Right.
Frosthaven definitely brings that. Just like Gloomhaven did. Gloomhaven, I think, was even shorter probably for the main story. Now, obviously, I should also say caveat, we're not done with Frosthaven.
Right.
This is after about 20 hours of gameplay.
Probably roughly. We've done 8 scenarios or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, if we're about 2 to 3 hours each,
right.
Close to at least on average 20. And it's like after like pretty much a full day's worth of hours, we're like, I feel like we're still right at the beginning. We have like 2 upgrades in our settlement. Our characters are like level
3.
3. I think
Yours
3.
might be 4
I'm close to 4.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, it's a lot. Now I live for these. These
right.
games are like always gonna be my favorite. Like my top 10 of is like all story driven campaigns. So the length is not a negative for me personally, but that's just because I can set aside the time for it.
Right.
But clearly from the box size, you're not gonna get a light experience.
Right.
So let's go ahead and I guess oh no, I do have one negative. So this could open up later on. We're still, like I said at the very beginning, but how you get potions. So the market is tweaked a little bit. It's not just like here's your stack of items, buy them. They did it in a way where you now collect like herbs,
right?
And you can combine those to make potions. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's really neat. I like that crafting system. You do this and this, and you don't know what it makes. Oh, it's a healing potion. But then it's like, oh, so now we can just make those? No, nope. You just made one, but we know how to make them now. We should just be able to make it. Nope.
Right.
Nope. I find that very, very odd.
Right.
It would make sense if it's like you don't know what it does, you figure it out, and from that point forward, you could start making like healing potions or whatever.
Right.
But obviously, that seems like it's something again more mechanical than it is thematic.
Right.
And as someone who never loots, like I never get those herbs, so I guess I'll never get a potion.
Right.
And he still doesn't really allow for like trading or anything like that, so it's kind of like if you have a potion, that's your potion.
Right.
Like, well,
I'll tell you, when you first craft it, you can hand it to someone.
That's true.
But that's it.
Right. So that one's just kind of weird for me. It's not like a big negative, but it is just thematically weird. And
right.
But other than that, I like the idea of like that chart of like
right.
making something that's really neat. But other than that, like so, let's talk about, because one of my favorite thing about Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion are the characters.
Yes.
So let's talk about the characters in Frosthaven. The ones that we have personally experienced are awesome.
Fucking ace.
They're so cool, and he did something amazing and gave them complexity.
Yes.
Like rankings and kind of like at the very beginning of the book, it's like here's your characters. This is their play style.
Right.
It's so nice.
Fucking A.
It's so great.
And not just on that. So every character, like in all the rest, they're still asymmetrical. They're all different. But to the point that your player boards now explain some of the differences for your own character. So where you can break, like basically every character is kind of breaking some rules somewhere or adding a rule to something.
Yeah.
It's now on your player board, then somewhere deep into a rule book or on a card. It's one piece. You have your awesome art.
Yeah.
And then you have your rules explanation for their character.
And then their and their backstory on the back.
Right.
Yeah, so we are playing I'm playing the Geminite
Yep.
Or not the Gemini. That's its race.
Um,
Harrower
no, the Horror is the race.
is the race. The Gemini is its class.
Yep.
Okay, you're playing the Blink Blade,
Right.
and then your wife is playing the Bone
Eater or something.
Bone Shredder, Slicer,
Bone Shifter.
Bone Shifter.
Yep.
So we're missing 3 others because they start with 6 again.
Right.
But out of the characters that we've played, so at this point, for Gloomhaven, the only character out of these 6 that I haven't actually played myself is the Mind Thief. But
I've played the Mind Thief. It's pretty fun.
I've seen the Mind Thief played multiple times, so
Right.
it's like, well, I kind of have. But yeah, so all these characters are fantastic.
Right.
But because Frosthaven is still relatively new, and I don't play it where you can freely swap in and out. I don't
Right.
think you're technically supposed to until they officially retire.
Right.
So we can talk about the characters that we're personally playing and that we've seen Ashley play.
Right.
I think they're better.
I think they're better.
I think at least the opening 3 are better than the factions I've played here.
So I'll put it this way. Again, like we bring in Jaws the Lion on top of it. I think Jaws the Lion are better characters, starting characters, than the starting 6 in Gloomhaven were.
Okay.
So I think, again, every time he's made a game, he's improved upon his initial 6 to make them feel good.
Yeah.
Because the initial 6 are good in Gloomhaven, but then almost every single time we would find one of the new characters, it's like, man, this guy just does this better.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
and that's fun, that's fine, but I want at the end of the game where I have all the options to say they're all equally great. They're just, what do they do special compared to someone else?
Yeah. I mean, these are still a lot of fun, but whereas the Gloomhaven world is luckily not your generic fantasy trope.
Right.
You still kind of have your brute, you have your rogue, or your rogue is a scoundrel. You have that's a tinkerer, wizard. I guess another brute.
Basically another, yeah.
They still have their stereotypes, but I mean,
It's a cleaner stereotype.
it is. My brute actually in my entire run through was the only one that I never retired. Like,
Right.
I saw like 2 characters in
Right.
Gloomhaven. I just never unlocked them. And in Frosthaven, they don't bring in new characters by retiring these. It's story driven,
Right.
and that is super cool too.
It is.
Because like in one of the opening, like the second or third scenario we did, it was just like, hey, here's the character.
You get one, and it's like,
Oh.
we're like kind of looking around, it's like, huh.
Is he playable? Like, is that a playable thing? And we'll try not to do spoilers, but
Right.
yeah, it was like, I kind of want to play that now.
Right.
Even though the character I'm playing is just so unique.
Right.
So you and I played the highest complexity ones, the Blink
Yep.
Blade and the Gemini.
Ashley's was the intermediate still.
Okay.
So I want to say these 2 were the low complexity, and then
Okay.
the person who basically poisons / damages themselves to support other players, and the summoner were the intermediates.
Gotcha.
Which I was talking to, so like, again, not really.
I was going to grab the rule book and look at their names. But...
So we did the opposite. So the path we went on, I have another friend playing the campaign, and they went the other path and
Okay.
selected the other person.
Gotcha.
And their reasoning was the same as ours, like, because we met them first.
Oh, yeah, it's funny to be weird. You're like, hey, man, yeah, we're siding with them. You
Right.
suck. Yeah, so let's talk about the neutral one, the one that we haven't played, but we're
Sure.
watching Ashley play. She's like your summoner.
Yeah.
And she summons a bunch of like skeletons and wraiths and demons and stuff.
Yep.
And she has like 6 health overall, but her entire shtick is you just have minions to absorb all the damage from you.
Right. You make walls of people, and you sacrifice your health to boost their power.
Yep. Let them activate multiple times.
Right.
I feel like she's more complex than us in terms of like making her useful.
Right.
Because it's like, well, yeah, you're never taking damage, but your summons die super quick.
Right.
So it's like maybe like late game she's bringing in like massive like demons, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
And one of the cool things about it is they did change. At least I don't, and she doesn't have as many lost cards. Like the old summoner from Gloomhaven had tons of cards that would get lost. Like every time you play a summon, it got lost. She has summons that literally you can play it. If it dies, it goes to your discard pile, not your lost pile. So when she reshuffles, she has it again, and she can play it another time.
Yep.
And so to me, it helps balance. Like, you're not so worried about throwing tons of summons out that you're going to be like, oh, if he dies, I don't have him anymore.
Yeah, my 2 health skeleton dies.
Versus throw him out, let him charge some enemies, hit something, dies. Let's go again, boys.
Right. You'll get him this time.
Right.
And then, but she also is kind of a slight support because she has ways to heal, and it's like, and then I'm over there. Yeah, I'm over there getting my ass beat, and I'm just like, where are you? Heal me. She's like, okay. Has wall of skeletons to protect herself so she can heal me.
She's that classic necromancer in D&D that just does nothing but just walks around with a horde of zombies and skeletons just feeding her grapes and wine as she just walks past.
Yeah, has them carry her in battle. It's I think she's great.
Yep.
I do kind of feel like she's a little bit on the slower side starting out, but I think that she will quickly, depending on if she levels up before she retires, I think she could be really good. Let's talk about your character, the Blink Blade.
So, very interesting. His mechanic is, at the beginning of your turn, you have time tokens that you choose to either go fast or slow. So, again, breaking a rule of Gloomhaven, there's 2 initiatives on each card, and there's basically, each card is now in 4 parts. Depending if you go fast and spend a token, you have faster initiative, and normally you do more damage or move faster or more things. Where slow, there are cards that actually benefit you. Like, I have one that heals everybody 2 health within range of 3 if you go slow. Or gives you ward and those type of things. And you gain back a time token. But you only have so many time tokens. So you can't just constantly go fast. Even though you really kind of want to, because you have high initiative, you have lots of movement. He has a lot of what I call the quick. He does damage, then can walk, then does damage, and then you do the bottom side of your card, and it might be then run 7 spaces. That's pretty cool, honestly.
Like kind of your guerrilla tactic fighter.
I was hoping more teleportation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. It was like portals and stuff, but it seems it's almost like there's a video game that came out, I think, called Quantum Break, and it was kind of like it's like almost like when you're going fast, you're like freezing time to like rush and do a bunch of stuff, and then when you're going slow, it's like you're going normal, to like recharge up your time manipulation is kind of how I envision it.
That's how I'm envisioning it.
And maybe you do get a teleporter in one of your levels. Who knows? Because I don't look at levels ahead.
I don't either.
I think it kind of ruins some of the fun. But but he's really cool. Unfortunately, we picked characters that were all very squishy.
Yep, we're all very squishy.
She has the lowest health out of us 3, and then you and I have the same health.
Same health,
so he's
no
great.
tanks.
We have no tanks, not even a little. Nope. We have very, I would probably call them just piss poor healing. I have no way to heal myself, and so I rely on
minimal base of healing.
You do dot healing. And she has kind of one burn card that's a heal. And then we go to mine, which is the Gemini, which is the one that would intrigue me the most, where it's 2 decks of cards, 7 cards each, and you have to, so you swap forms, and it's a melee form and a range form, and you have a model for both on how you want to deal with it. And the melee form is obviously, you have to be adjacent, and the range form is very restrictive. It's not like, oh, you're a range form, you can hit up to range 4. It's like, nope, you have to hit exactly at this, specific range. And there are cards that you play that it forces you to change form. So whenever I'm playing them, I'm very, aware of I just spent all my cards in melee form. They're all in my discard pile. I don't want to have to pop back and then start losing cards. But if you can balance that, if you can go back and forth, then he has a lot of, that's 14 cards, really.
He has a lot of potential. He has a lot of choices that you can start making. Because
I can just, when the scenario starts, it's like, oh, okay, they're all away from me. Range mode. His range is kind of like a lot of AoE damage. It doesn't do a whole lot, but I think the versatility of him is really cool. for doing that, and I think like the last scenario we did, you were trying to complete one of your masteries,
right?
And it's like I was basically in melee form the entire time, and I'm just
right.
like at the front lines. I'm like, I'm not really meant to be doing this.
Right.
Someone heal me. Like, it's just so unique. All three of them are so great. And then they went a little bit more in depth with the characters on, like, the fact that they have now masteries that they try to do.
Right.
And these masteries in the game, so you have your character sheet, looks pretty much similar to your other one,
right,
from Gloomhaven. But now it's kind of like special, like, things you can try and do, special challenges,
skills that you're trying to accomplish.
And if you happen to do it in a scenario, then you checkbox it, and it gives you a free perk.
Right.
And I think that's just something cool.
Yes.
Nothing major, but one is like one you're going to kind of do maybe early on, and then another is like late game.
Man, you're going to work if you like.
Yeah.
The stars align for you to get to that one.
Like one that we just got for you was you can't be targeted by an attack.
Right.
We thought that was the easy one.
And
it technically is if you just never did anything the whole time.
Right.
You waited for, but it's like that probably would have been easier had we had a tank.
That would have been easier if we had a tank. It probably would have been easier if we weren't doing a escape mission for the one we chose to do it on.
That was also true.
Because there were definitely missions like if we had to just kill everybody, that my ability to zip in and out of fights. But considering that our goal was basically continuously move forward, zipping forward and backwards too often was going to be detrimental.
And then your wife fucking picks the one
to
thing
move
to
two
move,
spaces.
never move more than 2 spaces on an escape mission. Because I thought her character was just that slow.
Yeah.
And then she's like, nope, I had this. I'm like, oh.
And we almost lost because of that. Like,
yeah.
She's getting slaughtered because we both left because we were done. Like, I could be targeted.
I'm like, sure, she's going to book it. Like, she'll get there. And then, like...
And then nothing for a while.
I chose to go slow. I'm like, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
And then one of mine, which was to... I think it was to lose a card every round.
Right.
Which was like, all right, I'm exhausted, guys.
Right.
But my other one is I have to change forms every round.
Right.
And that's...
just as hard.
That's rough. That is rough.
Yep. Because either you're going to get in a situation where you're only doing stuff maybe half the time because you just don't have time for it. Yeah. Which, again, if we had a tank, that probably wouldn't be as bad.
True. But they also, instead of your regular perks that just like kind of change your modifier deck,
right, now
they have like 3 things that are special cards.
Or special abilities.
Yeah.
Straight up abilities.
I think that's really neat.
Yes.
Because... I think our very first scenario we played, like, we had, like, them already out, and I was reading, and I'm like, actually, I think you have to unlock these.
Yeah, I didn't get any special cards, but then, like, mine, I was like, I started reading down, I was like, I can never be,
immobilized.
Immobilized. I'm like, I'm a guy who just wants to move fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
That's, like, perfect.
Yeah, I'm like, God, that's just so good. And then the one I have currently allows me to...
Ignore a condition.
If I inflict a condition on myself, I can ignore it.
Which you have a lot of cards that do that.
Yeah, one curses I can curse myself to do a wider attack, but the one that's even greater is one of my perk cards is another ×2, and it gives me break.
Right.
And, which is horrible, because break is a new condition where you're dealt brittle. You're dealt double damage.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, ooh, ×2! Ignore that!
Right, because most attacks will then just instant kill you.
Exactly. So it's just so cool. Like, the characters are still amazing to play as, and then it's just a little bit of extra stuff thrown in. Not making it too complex, but they're still there.
It's still there. One thing I do like about character-wise is instead of having road events and city events that affect a specific character, it now has 3 different characteristics of a character.
Yes.
And so we don't need, like, again, in Gloomhaven, it was you need the Inox Brute.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have him, you couldn't complete A. Now, it's if one of your character, has Nimble, then you pass, and so because everybody has 3, the chances of you actually having the one that you need is there. We hit one that we didn't have anybody, I think it was like large or something.
Something like that, yeah.
So we couldn't complete it that way, but again, I like the fact that it's not a class specific, because
Right.
if you don't like that class, then you're just never going to hit that card.
Exactly, yeah. You just have, instead of it being in a 4-player game, you have 4 chances. Now, in Frosthaven, you have, in a 4-player game,
12 chances.
12 chances.
Yeah.
15. No, wait.
It's 3 times 4.
3 each? Yep. Yep, that is how math works. That is 12. Yeah, and that's just so much better. And then also the events have, like, are kind of a little bit more... They still do have very class, like the one we had where it's like, hey, do you have a Harrower in your group? Yeah, we do. Okay, well, you can choose this option.
Right.
It's like, ooh, yeah, I want to do that. That sounds neat.
Right.
So they do pop up still, but yeah, it's not just some generic road event or city event that you need a specific class for.
So I like that quite a bit better for character-wise. I'll say again, the road events, city events in Gloomhaven to me were weak. They were very good or bad.
Sometimes they were bad or bad.
Right.
Like
in here, they seem way grayer. They seem more like this is just an event. We've got a couple, for whatever reason, of mail deliveries.
That's it.
And the question is, do you open it or do you go give it to the person?
Yeah.
And we've given it so far to the people every single time.
Yeah.
But theoretically...
And then they're like, oh, the legendary axe of God.
Right.
And you're like, man, we should have kept that.
Right.
Like, damn it. But then they're like, anyway, here's 20 XP or whatever it is. And
Right.
you're like, oh, well, all right.
It's never like we got something in return. It might not be as good as the item that we lost from that, but it was good. It was fine.
Yeah.
But to me, the choices feel better. They feel more involved. They don't feel like I just don't care.
Yeah.
Sometimes the road events in Gloomhaven, I just didn't care.
Man, there are so many in Gloomhaven now, because I'm playing it on Steam again, and I'm reading them out, and it's always like, oh, you see a band of
Right.
gypsies on the... Do you help them or not? And then it's like, yeah, we'll help them. They rob you. You start wounded.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, and then you get it again, and you're like, no, we'll leave them alone. They curse you. What the fuck?
Right.
Like, just like, why even deal with that if it's just gonna always like. The one that always gets me is like, oh, you see, like, you hear or smell smoke in the distance, and you're like, okay, we'll avoid it. And then it's like, well, you went the long way around. You start with 2 discarded cards.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, put out the fire. You start wounded.
Right.
Okay, so they just always felt like they were going to dick you.
Right.
And Frosthaven hasn't really had that.
Now, the thing in Frosthaven we haven't hit is they do it by different times of seasons. So you play in summer and winter.
Yeah.
We haven't got to winter yet.
Yeah, that's probably where all the Gloomhaven events come in.
Right. and that's what everybody has said, like, on forums. Like, yeah, summer is like Gloomhaven normal.
Okay.
And then winter is where you get just demolished.
We're like, oh man, it's kind of cold up here, but it's nice. Yeah, winter. Oh, we can't see anything. We're gonna die.
Right. All our soldiers are dead. Our walls are in tatters. Yeah. Bring up the spears.
Is that an army of, like, Algox? Yay.
Right. Are they bring snow demons with them?
Right? Is that Lucifer, but Frost version? Guys, what level are we?
Yeah.
You lose 10 levels. Oh.
Right.
What I was going to bring up was, so, for this and Jaws of the Lion, I will never play these. If I were to go to someone's house and they're like, and they started reading out loud, I'd leave. I'd be like, do you not have Foreteller? No, I don't like apps and games. Okay, well, you can do this by yourself.
Yeah.
Foreteller is
a godsend.
Must. It is a godsend. And it is, if you thought it was good in Gloomhaven, Frosthaven just kicks it up a notch. Like,
all the road events, city events, all scenario book events.
Yep.
Everything that has any part of the words that you would need to read out in a story is there. All the options for the scenario, like road events and city events, are in there. Like, you literally, it pops up. You choose A or B. You click it, it reads out that.
The voice acting is way better. Every character is like has their own voice. The sound effects, the soundtrack is just
fantastic.
It's just brought up to another level.
Yep.
And what's even great about that, because Gloomhaven was still very good, the writing in Frosthaven, it's like, I think at one point Isaac hired someone with a sense of humor, because these are very hot topic edgelord like writing, like your creative writing in 8th grade English whenever you're going through puberty. This is like, oh, you grew up.
So I think because that was made a comment when it first came out, or when it first was being pledged. The same person who did Jaws of the Lion Road and City events did it for this as well. Because again, Gloomhaven is great for, I call it, first edition.
Yeah.
And then you realize all the problems with it, and he fixed a lot of them with Jaws of the Lion. And then he said, okay, let's take it up another notch. Let's try and improve again, which he did, in my opinion, with Frosthaven, taking everything they learned so far and just said, let's do it better.
Yeah. Yep, so the writing is funny, while also still having moments that are emotional, but it's not like, just, oh yeah, oh god, I just want to cut myself because I'm just so depressed. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it's not just more involved. Even though the world is bleak and harsh and who knows, the writing could get very drab, it'll make sense versus like, why is everything just weirdly emotional in this?
Yeah.
So love the writing in Frosthaven so far.
Yep.
In terms of the campaign, what I've always wanted, and Frosthaven's the only one that I can actually see doing it, actually shows you your branching path, which is so great.
It is so great.
When you're trying to figure out where to go or how far you are, it allows for
what story path you're on.
Exactly. Because if you finish it and you go back, like we finished the main campaign, we're like, okay, we're done. We can go back to those sheets and be like, oh, we didn't go this way. Like in a replay, we didn't go this way, we didn't go that way, we missed 80 scenarios.
Or even just like, okay, I can see this is the main path of the story, but we want to go do a little side quest for a while. Now I can come back and say, okay, let's reread the ending for this chapter because we're going to go back on the main quest path.
Yeah.
So, because it's been 2 weeks, let's just say.
Yeah.
Let's reread the ending so we kind of remember where we're going down on this path and what the goal and... Because that was my problem with Gloomhaven. I realized it too late that I should have had like a notebook and basically done that myself.
Yeah.
Of kind of explaining each ending for every single section.
Yeah.
So I would understand, okay, this is why we're doing this and where we're going with this and what the branching path and what the choices were if we're going down 6 versus 8.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were times whenever I'd go into Gloomhaven and be like, I don't remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. It almost felt like every scenario was kind of isolated. Yeah, it's independent. There is an overarching story, and I don't know, obviously we haven't finished Frosthaven, so I don't know if there's actually going to be an ending, but Gloomhaven's main story didn't feel like an ending. I mean, the final boss, so spoiler, the final boss, I mean, that shouldn't really be a surprise. But, so it's like, okay, yeah, I beat the big boss, don't really remember why I'm here or how he's here, but the final thing was just kind of like a, alright.
Well, there's 3 main arching stories in Gloomhaven that are all semi-tied together.
Gotcha.
And so that was my problem, too, because we completed one, not realizing that was one of the story arcs until like I went online after we completely finished Gloomhaven, and then we completed the main one. It's like, but why is this that much different than that? And then it's like, okay, they feed into each other, but it's not well drawn out for you to know that.
See.
And so, again, because it's not a sandbox as like Sleeping Gods, but still pretty sandboxy in the sense you have a lot of options at some points. Like, I think 3rd mission in, we had like 5 paths we could choose. Okay. And we're like...
In Frosthaven or...
In Frosthaven. Okay, and we're like, we're just going to go this one because we want to fight something not...
sure.
And... Yeah. That's what we did.
And some of the scenarios actually require specific stuff.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, you're hard capped here until you go out and actually do this.
Right. And some will pop up open on time-based. So there's now like a calendar in the corner. If you open it up, basically that mission will have popped at some point anyway. Yeah. After just X amount of time.
Yeah, kind of like Kingdom Death. It's like, hey, add this event to Lantern Year 15. It does the same thing here.
Which I like.
I do too. Pretty cool. I've always enjoyed that. Aeon Trespass does the same thing. It's just kind of neat that you're given events at very specific moments. Right. I was gonna say something else about the campaign. The actual scenarios themselves are just way better. Yeah. It's not. I mean, we've had obviously some kill all enemies. Right. But
we've already had an escape, and we're not. I mean, we're 8 scenarios in.
Yeah. And Gloomhaven was. It was like you had 8 in the entire campaign that were just different. The rest were kill all enemies.
Kill all enemies. We had now one of like kill specific objectives. Like we didn't have to kill enemies. It was just get to certain objectives. Some were literally stand next to a pillar. It takes a damage every time. So
Yeah.
it took 8 turns of someone standing there at spawn points, like legit spawn points for enemies.
Right.
So you're literally hacking
tower defense. Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh shit.
And so that was cool. That is cool.
And I knew that was coming in. I knew Frosthaven was going to kind of
Expand upon
upon unique events, and because some of the events are written and designed by different people,
Right.
Which is just better. I mean, again, I'm not taking anything away from Gloomhaven in this review. I still think Gloomhaven is a 10 out of 10 game.
Yep.
Like, I guess in comparison, in comparison, I would probably knock Gloomhaven to a 9, just if I was like 1-to-1 comparing them, because Frosthaven is this but better in every way.
Right.
So it's like, well, okay, I see more flaws in this and that, so I guess Frosthaven would be a 10 out of 10 and Gloomhaven is a 9. However, you can't take away from what this game brought to the industry as a $100 massive RPG.
Right. With a brand new mechanic.
Yeah.
That was light years beyond most brand new mechanics.
Exactly. Like, you had... I mean, there were very few campaign-driven games that were good.
Right.
Like...
They replaced something like D&D, so if you don't have a DM and want something a little more streamlined, like a module for D&D, Gloomhaven fixed that problem.
It did, and it's like...
It did well.
Just the price point just makes it that much better, because it's like the only minis are your characters, and then everything else is standees.
And I normally do like dollars to hours. Like Gloomhaven alone was so cheap compared to most other board games. Like
That's
the number
true.
of hours you're going to get out of Gloomhaven, if you just play through it one time, and again, board games are supposed to be played multiple times. Gloomhaven and Frosthaven might be kind of the exception.
Yeah.
You are making your money in hours to board game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not making that theoretically in Scythe, Twilight Imperium.
Right. And if you want to replay it, you spend $20 on the sticker pack. And it's like, okay, well, now it's reset, so get your 100+ hours back.
Right.
And then make a different choice. Or play the Steam version. If you have a PC, then that would probably be, if you were done playing the board game and you wanted to play it again. At that point, I might say get the Steam version just for ease of access.
Right.
But I don't know. There's just something about physically playing these games that are just... I get way more into it than I do on the video game.
I get way more into it on the physical copy.
So... Because I did the same thing whenever people were bitching about Pandemic Legacy when that first came out. I was like, okay, this was like $60.
Right.
Like, you have 12 scenarios. That's already $5 a scenario. You play it four players. That's like $1.25 each.
A
like,
scenario.
Yeah, I'm like, where's the complaint here? Well, I won't get to replay it.
It's
pay another, play another $60 and then you can.
Right.
Or you get, like, I mean, if 12 months, you get 24 hours out of it if it's 2 hours a game.
I'll put it this way: how many people buy or watch a movie multiple times? Anyway?
Right.
So you play Pandemic Legacy or Gloomhaven once. The amount of time, hopefully enjoyment that you're getting out of that game is well worth it.
Yeah.
And then, to me, kind of even the bonus of, say you play Gloomhaven, you loved it, but you know you're never playing again. Buy the $20 stickers, sell it.
Yeah.
And you're out $20.
That's true.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, because at the same time, it's the people who make that argument are just looking for something to bitch about. It's first world problems where your life is so great, you're making shit up to be upset about. Like, because those same people either don't have the game,
Right.
or if they do, it's probably sitting on a fucking shelf of unplayed games. It's like, how many people are making that complaint and have beaten it?
Right.
It took me 5 years to beat my solo thing for Gloomhaven.
That's so.
And I was playing it by myself. I had no one to blame but myself.
Right.
And that was because it's like, whenever I finished it, I was starting to think back, and I'm like, oh my god, 5 years.
Right.
A lot has happened in 5 years.
Right.
Jeez. And then Frosthaven comes out, and my copy isn't even touched.
Right.
I put the wooden thing together. It's great. Like, it is wonderful. The only thing that sucked was, like, the map tile pack, but then that accordion thing, I'm like, cool.
Right.
Oh, there's a positive and a negative right there. Frosthaven's tiles are leagues better than the Gloomhaven tiles. They actually have art and design to them. That's the positive. The negative, they're still tiles.
Yeah.
And Jaws of the Lion had to
show that the books are better.
Yeah. They had to ruin it for everyone else. And I know people are like, I fucking love the tiles. Like, my tiles are soggy because I cream on them. I'm like, God.
And they make their own scenarios and play custom.
It's like, and that's, I mean, even Isaac has done a post about that. Pros of the tiles, cons of the tiles.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, 100%. If for the Crimson Scales fan-made DLC, they were able to do all that. For the online, make the scenario, use these tiles, that's great. Have both. Like, and so for people like me who don't want to make scenarios, just give me the book.
Or play
give me
that
book.
many more scenarios of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I already look at it as like, I'm already going to spend massive amounts of time in this game anyway. So, I'm probably not going to need a ton more.
Yeah.
Like, I keep thinking like, oh, I'm going to play Gloomhaven again. And then I was like, I don't know that I am going to play Gloomhaven again, at least not for a long time.
Yeah. Unless you're playing it on Steam.
Right.
Like, that's where I'm replaying it.
The only time I can think of is when my kids are like 3-4 more years older, and they could play it with us, and then they can experience that story themselves for the first time.
Yeah.
But that's it, probably.
Right.
And then after that, it's probably going to wait a long time.
Yeah. I will say, between having the two, like, I don't, like, this didn't replace this for me.
No.
This is just, now I have more of a game I already love. And with Gloomhaven, like, I can't, it's something, you have to do something, right? Because these characters can be played in this, right? Like, are they interchangeable between the two?
They're all interchangeable. The characters from Gloomhaven, if you play them in Frosthaven, Isaac created new character sheets for them.
Okay.
Where, like, your perks are going to be slightly different, and those things are going to be different.
But, like, the cards stay the same, like, you don't have to do something.
Or you can print them off. It's free to print off to exchange them.
Yeah, because those sheets I don't really care about if I have to go print them off myself. And that's easy to do.
I used to print them all off because someone on Board Game Geek had designed better laid out ones. So, like, for Gloomhaven, like, I have every single character, like, 3 of their sheets. Because they were just better. And they were full-page sheets.
Cool.
Because, again, you don't need the sheets except for the end of every scenario.
True.
So, but they had, like, a spot for you to name your equipment in on the actual sheet. So, like, your helmet, you just put what helmet you have.
Okay.
And those type of things that helped you keep track if you were going to throw everything back in the box and clean it up well.
Gotcha.
So it's things like that.
Yeah. One thing we haven't talked about is the settlement phase. I know you brought it up kind of at the beginning, but we can go a little bit more in depth on it. I think it's awesome.
I love it.
I think it's just really, really neat because it feels lived in.
Yes.
Like, and what kind of ties into that is we're talking about characters. In Gloomhaven, when your character's retired, which was a mechanic I didn't really like because it almost felt like you never wanted to level them up because you're like, oh, they're going to go away. I want to see them at max level. And then when they did retire, they was just kind of like, all right, well, they're gone.
Right.
Here's an event card that may never show up.
Right.
Frosthaven, when they retire, they actually, like, open up shop.
They join the settlement
as
part of the settlement.
And that's just cool.
Right.
Like, that actually is like, oh, hey, what's up, weird germ guy?
Yeah, you're not getting new characters when you retire like in Gloomhaven. You're getting new building options, which to me is so good.
Yeah, it gives agency of the players on what they want to do. It's like, well, oh man, what building do we want? Like, what building do we level up? Do we want to start crafting more items? Do we want to start getting potions? Do we build into defense?
Right.
And you're not ever really in an abundance of loot.
No,
I don't think.
Because everything keeps getting more expensive.
Yeah. You need a certain prestige level or prosperity level to even build certain stuff.
Right. I do like it. So the way it progresses is you do time. So again, kind of like Kingdom Death, if there's a story event for that year, you start with the story events. After that, you do an actual settlement event, which is the replacement of the city events. You might actually even call them city events. I can't remember now.
Outpost events, right?
Outpost events. Yep, outpost events. And they are either kind of what we've seen most of the time is mail being delivered, but then we had one where we got attacked.
Yeah.
And basically you now have a deck that is the city guard. Mm-hmm. And they have basically just like everyone on their deck, the actual scenario page, like where you keep all of your scenario information, actually has perks for the city guard, so you can modify that deck eventually. Mm-hmm. Because there's one where they just fail.
Yeah.
There's a failure card, and there's a full success, and then they have plus and minuses on their attack and defense.
Right.
And that's super cool. I love the fact that you have soldiers, and you can train soldiers. You pay to train soldiers. Mm-hmm. The soldiers boost up your defense, but not only that, they give you advantage on the card draws.
Yep.
That's super positive. But you could be attacked and have 5 different buildings being attacked, and you have 4 soldiers.
Yeah.
So now you have to make decisions on which ones are you going to defend the hardest, and which ones are you potentially going to have problems with.
Right.
Fortunately, we've been in summer, so it's been kind of weak attacks.
I think we've had one
attack. We haven't had any buildings damaged or razed.
Yeah.
So we haven't had to rebuild anything. And we've been pretty aggressive on building walls where we can.
That's my whole thing. I know because you want more shops.
I want more
Ashley
shops.
got her ship.
Yep, she got her ship.
And then I'm over there like I just must have KDM PSD.
Right. Walls.
PTSD. I'm just like, no, we it's just walls.
Right.
Build the wall. I'm over there, just build it.
And I'm like, nah, I want a hunting lodge.
I'm like, there won't be a hunting lodge if we don't build the wall. But I think we only built one wall anyway, so I was like, okay, got my wall.
We got 2 walls built so far. But I think at this point, we got 2 walls because we hit the next prosperity level.
That's right.
So we could get, but now it's like prosperity 4 for the next wall.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to take a while to get to that wall.
We got our 2 walls, and now we can build some shops.
Right.
And there's a lot of shops.
And there's a lot of shops.
And they level up. It's
pretty cool.
So good.
So after you do that, so basically you run through all the shops that you have, and there's a top action for what you can do. So it can be buy X amount of something for gold, craft your potions, do any of that kind of stuff. After that's done is where you do what your character cleanup. So level up, make buy gear, do any kind of cleanup on your characters that you need, and then lastly, it's choosing to build something. Which I think is kind of cool that you're in the very last section, so you can't use the building that you built, which makes sense thematically.
Yeah.
You can build a new building or upgrade a building. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. I love that fact.
The market deck isn't just kind of like a merchant that just has a bunch of stuff. It's like
it's pretty limited.
Yeah, here's what you got.
Yep.
Level it up, and then you get more.
And the goal is then to bring some more merchants into town. So we've been working on one to try to bring some merchants into town.
Yep.
So it's pretty solid.
Yeah, because I don't know. I'm sure someone's beaten Frosthaven by this point. It's been out for a little bit that someone could have just really went all in.
Right.
I'm curious to know how long Frosthaven is compared to Gloomhaven in terms of scenario numbers, because obviously time is subjective based off players and player counts. So it's I think there was 24 in the main for Gloomhaven.
I thought it was more. But
was it more?
Wrong. I don't, because there's no clean path. I haven't really looked up the clean path.
Okay.
If you really steamroll through it.
Yeah, I know on my Steam game we got to the reason why I started really rushing because we caught up to where I was in Steam to where I was in the physical copy. And I'm like, oh shit, that was quick.
Right.
So then I trudged on through, and now as we're playing, I'm like, oh okay, we have about 3 more before we're done.
Right.
At least with this section of the story that I did.
Yeah.
Because what's weird, and I don't know why, because there's more scenarios in this, right?
There's, I think, 114.
Okay, and there were 94 or 98, something like that, in Gloomhaven, not counting the expansion. I don't know why I went to Board Game Geek. So in Foreteller, it's, damn it. I saw Sleeping Gods available. I'm like, ooh! So Gloomhaven has 5 hours of 20 and 23 minutes of reading.
Right.
And Frosthaven has 4 hours and 10 minutes of reading. And I don't know why. That could just be because maybe there's more... because this is showing 136 scenarios. And
but you don't have the scenario books all with it. You don't have the road and city events all in there.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of side stuff that is outside of a scenario that Frosthaven is now being read for.
Gotcha.
It's like Jaws of the Lion is massively more.
Yeah, because Jaws of the Lion is 1 hour and 54 minutes.
Right, for 24 scenarios total.
25.
25? Okay, 25.
You forgot about the 00 prologue.
Okay.
Yeah, idiot. Yeah. And, well, just for shits and giggles, Madara is 22 hours of reading.
And it's a book like that.
All right, read it. I don't want to read it. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of weird to me based off the audio, but even then it's way better audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think of like other. So now the question becomes, where do we go from here? So Gloomhaven had the Forgotten Circles expansion.
Right.
Do you think? Let's do predictions. Do you think he does another expansion, like one expansion for Frosthaven, or do you think there's so much in here? Do you think Isaac is like, I'm done. I hate this world. I hate everyone here. I hate money.
I don't think he's going to be done.
Do you think he does another massive one? Like, if he has a world, if he has a mass, like you know, what is it called? Tariel, that Skyrim's in. Like Skyrim is the north, and there's Cyrodiil in the middle.
The Elder Scrolls,
like the Elder Scrolls world, where it's like, okay, well now we can go to this section. Do you think he has something like that, where Gloomhaven's in the middle, then Frosthaven's in the north? Do you think he just starts going?
I think so.
That's what I hope. I mean, clearly this just came out, and it's like we're 8 scenarios in, so 16 hours in. 20-something hours in.
So whether he does it this big, or he does smaller ones that are Jaws of the Lion size, where, like, because we don't even touch where the Slavs are, like, sand nomads at times. Like, there's tribes of sand. You can have a campaign that's based there.
Yeah.
It's 25 scenarios long.
True, because Jaws of the Lion is like it's like a story within Gloomhaven,
right? So I could see those. I could definitely see an expansion of another character with another. I mean, again, kind of depending on the end, because Gloomhaven, kind of to our point of you hit the main bad guy, you're like, okay, so that was the main boss.
Yeah.
But then instantaneously the expansion plays off of that. Like the minute.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah. So you're not supposed to play it until you've completed that big boss fight.
Gotcha.
Then you play Forgotten Circle.
That was a good boss.
It was a good boss.
I liked that boss. It was challenging, but not like stupid.
It was, yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh yeah, all right, I beat you, but I kind of had to work for it.
Right.
Versus like, oh, I just get one shot. Neat.
Right. It was a cool mechanic for the boss. Like that boss was.
If we're talking about the same one, I don't know if there's multiple in-game bosses or if
I don't
it
think
leads
so.
to the one. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, my thinking, here's my prediction, is I kind of agree with you. I think, well, they're going to do their miniatures one. I think that's kind of their subset. He can just kind of have that off to the side because he's a millionaire. He's like, whatever, just go make my minis and whatever.
Right.
And then I know they're doing a RPG.
Yep.
Another side project. I think their next main big project will be another big box. However, in the meantime, for the next, 3, 4, 5 years between that, he's going to do another like Jaws of the Lion thing.
Right.
That one wasn't even kickstarted.
Right.
It was just kind of like made. So, because Jaws of the Lion was a game within Gloomhaven, he could probably do another one within Frosthaven.
Right.
And then it's like, hey, here's the next big box, and then it'll be another. It's like eventually you can make these as stairs.
Well, they have to fit in a Calyx shelf still.
Do they?
They do. Unfortunately, like, it's interesting. Calyxes are so universal now in board game that as a designer, you actually have to consider a Calyx shelf design.
Yep, the Too Many Bones Trove chest is designed for Calyx shelves. The old world, the Witcher.
Yeah, Witcher in the old world is designed around it. This was designed around it. So, there's only so much you can get at that point.
You know what he's going to do? It'll fit in Calyx shelves, but it's going to be 2 boxes. So you have to put one and then next to the other.
Good. I mean, again, I still want to do it.
Oh yeah,
Let's
like
be realistic.
there's nothing that Cephalofair and Isaac will make that's like this that I will not back.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't look at, because like I know people were bitching about Frosthaven and all that, and I was like, I have so many campaigns to play.
Right.
Like, I got it, and I'm not even playing my own copy.
Right.
So, I never really cared. I guess I've just been burned, or I don't hover over Kickstarter updates, because then that just makes you upset. It's like, it'll get here when it gets here.
This is probably my only one that was actually burnt out on the Kickstarter being as delayed as it was. Because it kept getting promised and then not happening.
Yeah, that's probably a learning point. Is just shut up, keep your mouth shut, and just be like, hey, it's still being worked on. What was annoying me is there were a lot of people getting their copies, and I'm like, okay, it's been like a few months. Like, where's mine? Like,
right.
And then I started looking. I'm like, did I pay for it? Did I back this game?
It was like, my game store got it a month before, like, got all their copies. Like,
yeah.
I should have just gone and pledged it through you guys.
Yeah.
If I had known that.
Yeah.
And that's honestly probably what I will do next time, is instead of pledging myself, I'll probably just go to the game store and do a pledge to them.
Yeah, that's a lot of game stores do that now. That's how I'm getting my Marvel Zombies
Right.
Through them, and you save on shipping.
That's realistically my reason.
So yeah. That's. I mean, can you think of anything else for Frosthaven?
So, do you think it's worth the $240 price point that will be for retail?
100%. 100%. Now, obviously, that's another thing I hardly ever bring up, because $240 for me could be, nothing to someone, or a lot to a lot of people.
Well, Gloomhaven was $120 retail when it first came out.
Yeah.
So you're talking twice the price.
It is twice the price. And the box size doesn't really show that it's double the content, but it pretty much is.
Yeah.
Like, you said it good, that Gloomhaven is like a 1.0.
Right.
Like, this is fantastic. However, if you have any issues with it, it's most likely fixed in Frosthaven, unless it was glaring actual gameplay. I hate the hand management part. Well, that didn't go away.
Right.
In fact, it's more in the game.
Right.
So Frosthaven is like, it's if you loved Gloomhaven, you're gonna love Frosthaven.
Yeah. If you had small annoyances in Gloomhaven, probably at least half of those annoyances got fixed.
If you're a brass player, then you're not gonna like Frosthaven, because apparently you hate Gloomhaven, because you're a child. Because a friend of mine, he was talking about Frosthaven. He said, "Yeah, I wonder when that breaks the top 100." I'm like, it will not.
Yeah.
Like, Gloomhaven just moved down to 3 for a stupid reason, and Frosthaven's sitting at like 405 or 5, like the 500. And I'm like, more people were actually upset with Frosthaven because of the delays and all that. Gloomhaven came out, and it was revolutionary in 2017, so it just jumped to number 1.
Right.
I'm like, Frosthaven, like, unless BGG, like, actually does something about how their ranking system works, like, I would just say, like, you combine them.
Yeah.
Like, Gloomhaven / Frosthaven.
I think if Gloomhaven is going to stay in the top 100, Frosthaven should replace in the top 100.
That's what I would say, yeah. I'm like, and I'm copyright struck. Yeah, it's just... Or put them both in there, because both Through the Ages are in there, and Agricola's in there, and fucking what, and it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But here's the real question. Yes, I agree. I think 240, you definitely get your money's worth.
Yep.
We just mentioned 8 scenarios in at 24 hours. 24 hours is insane.
Yeah.
I agree. The real question is Gloomhaven shit now because it's number 3?
No. I mean, Gloomhaven's still going to be my top role-playing dungeon crawl game. Frosthaven's probably going to replace it in the sense of, if someone were to say which of the two I'm going to play Frosthaven, because I do think it's better. But I probably rank them basically. I think of them as the same. They're the same world. To me, Jaws is the same.
Yeah.
They'll go in the same aisle for me in my calyxes.
Yeah, when I do my top 100, it's both of these combined.
Right.
Not having two separate things. Now, what's cool still, though, is kind of like when you're playing like Skyrim or Oblivion or something like that. It's like Skyrim is clearly the superior game, but sometimes you don't want to be in the frozen north.
Right.
You want to be in the more summery, like, middle. So it's like, if you're playing Gloomhaven, it's because you actually want to be in that atmosphere.
Yes.
Like, it just depends on what I'm feeling. I don't always want to deal with snow and ice and horrid weather. I want to be involved in like the art, here. I want to be involved in this, higher fantasy market versus the survival element.
Right.
They both have their place, even though mechanically Frosthaven is just made improvements on every element.
Right.
Although between the two covers, I still think this one's better. I really love this.
I really love
Gloomhaven
Gloomhaven. Probably Frosthaven is just newer for me, so I mean, I was playing Gloomhaven so much that you just had always out.
Yeah, that's true. You're like
but
over
then, like,
it.
you really look at it and it's like, oh man, how many characters are just on the main board art?
Like it's drawn to like, oh, who's this menacing figure with these two
Right.
characters, and then there's a lot of like stuff going on. This is your high fantasy market. This is action packed.
Right.
So it's like it's still cool, but like this guy, that guy's fucked right there. He's just being killed by that Inox or that Albox, whatever their names are. But it's like this just feels like it's more going on. You hear this like here in that market versus you just kind of hear
screams and fire and
yeah,
something roaring in the background.
Yep. So like without making this video any longer than it already is, scale of 1 to 10, what are you giving Frosthaven?
10.
Yeah. Like it's like it's.
If you haven't figured that out, I'm sorry.
I know.
We were really piss poor at this job then.
Yeah, we're over here raving about it. It's kind of a 5. It's pretty average.
Yeah, it's pretty average.
Yeah, let's pull a no puns intended and just start shitting on it because that's just what I do. Yeah, and I mean Gloomhaven, it's like, again, like I mentioned, if I was being objective about it, it would probably be a 9 at this point, just because Frosthaven now exists. Like this would be a 10. Frosthaven's improved, so they can't both be 10s if I think this one's better.
Right.
Just objectively.
It's a 9.9 then.
Yeah, it's like subjectively though, this came first.
Right.
And this doesn't exist without this.
Right.
And this still does everything great.
And you don't know the mistakes or the improvements to make without Gloomhaven to make Frosthaven better.
It's the same way Jaws of the Lion was still a 10 out of 10. In fact, it's an 11 out of 10 because that tutorial system is so damn good.
Great.
So, and I agree. I think if someone were to be like, if they want to jump in, you do Jaws of the Lion.
Yep. See if you like it. It's a low price point to enter into it. After that?
The friend I did the top 100 with, he hated Gloomhaven. Like, he hated the hand management. It just didn't, it didn't make sense to him. And then I got Jaws of the Lion, and I'm like, just for shits, do you just want to go test out this tutorial system with me? He's like, yeah, I'll play it. And now it's his number 5 game. Like, he flipped on it so hard. It has Frosthaven and everything. He loves it just because that tutorial system was so well done.
Yes.
It handholds you like, okay,
especially
play these 2 cards.
Right, especially for a game that is fairly complex, fairly big. You have to DM the monsters a little bit, but they have a mechanic. You just have to understand how those mechanics work.
Yeah.
But
and then if you have any questions, it's just like, oh, well, let me go to the tutorial section where it taught me. Because there are times where I'm like, what the fuck's an obstacle again? Like, I just get, like, those simple things you just forget. And I'm like, that's right. That's what an obstacle does. How do they decide movement? Because there were even things when you were playing, when we started Frosthaven and you were like, no, this is the initiative you have to stick with. That's the card you have to play. I'm like, no, no, unless I've been playing it wrong. Nope, because I think I pulled out the Jaws of the Lion one to find the rule, and that's just how great it is.
Yeah.
So I'd say own all 3.
Yep.
And go through it. Like, just because Frosthaven is great, Gloomhaven is still just as good, and then you probably appreciate Frosthaven more.
You will appreciate it better, I think.
And you won't be overwhelmed, because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's so much. And own all 3, so you have, 50 characters?
Something.
Like, there's 4 in Jaws of the Lion.
How
many are in...
it's close. 12. It has to be... It's between 40 and 50.
Yeah, because you have 12 starting total, so that'd be 16.
Right.
I think there's like 18 or 19 in Frosthaven. I think there's around the same.
Right.
Maybe not 40 or 50. Maybe around 30 to 40 characters.
Somewhere
that you can just play.
Yeah, and they're all good. They're all unique. They're all different.
Yeah, they all have depth to them. So it's like if you really love the Mind Thief, we'll play the Mind Thief in Frosthaven. If you really love the Hatchet in Jaws of the Lion, which I still haven't played,
so fun.
I've heard. I loved my Red Guard. My Red Guard was a blast.
That's what a lot of people all say. The Red Guard.
Yeah, I was like, man, this guy is neat. It's like a chain sickle. Like that's dope. So yeah, just grab him and move him in. One thing I don't know, because obviously we haven't played all the characters, but Jaws of the Lion, like one of my favorite things about that was the characters had like that middle point where they got like a really special like buff. And as far as I know, Gloomhaven doesn't have any of that. And I'm curious if Frosthaven does.
There's no extra boxes, so I doubt it.
Okay. That was just something really cool.
That was really cool.
In Jaws of the Lion. So
and I think that was kind of his special because there was no retiring.
Oh.
So here's something that you can look forward to
That's true.
in the mid game.
Okay.
But I agree. It was so cool.
It was so neat. So, yeah, Frosthaven, 10 out of 10. Still keeping Gloomhaven really at a 10 out of 10. Jaws of the Lion, 10 out of 10. These games are fantastic.
Yep.
Keep an eye out for the series that I'll eventually do. I don't know yet if I'm going to do it solo or with someone else. At some point, I will start it. I just wanted to get a review on the channel.
Right.
But let us know what you think of the games in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.